And we are back. We're back for the final time today because this is the very last game possible. This is the ace game decider between the southern combatants. You've got Kimbo and Mad Slice rocking that guard rifle combined arms tactics, locking it in. Stuve locking in armored assault tactics. Double Soviets from the south of Elst outskirts. And their opponents, please.
Yep, battling from the northwest. It's going to be Nagano and Scotch playing OKW and Austere respectively. And they have a little bit more reserve than their Soviet counterparts. They're going to pick their commanders yet. They're going to wait to see what the choices are and see how they can effectively counter. It's going to be the ace game that decides #1 seed for the first qualifier tournament. It's a big moment.
It is
a big moment. Special
Rifle Command launching in with a penal battalion immediately. Stuve also launching in with the same build, so it's almost as though we're seeing same cohesive army from the south with two mines controlling. But in the north it is a split axis fair. We've got Wehrmacht of Scotch on the west, the Frenchmen going to push down deep and try and occupy this victory point and maybe even push down to this fuel point. And the guy in the north is the best pound for pound player, for my money, in Company Heroes history, because he's just done it all and done every faction of every game, every mode, and both games in the series thus far. It is Nagano putting some steel barricades up. And what do you guys see?
I always like OKW players, if no, any player. I always like players that take their engineer squads and terraform the map. I think it's brilliant because those early game engagements are so crucial. You want to be able to make sure you get the green cover places negated. So I really like to see that. Shame he didn't get it finished, but what are you going to do?
What are you going to do indeed? Here comes a first for today, at least, the M3. Forward and rear facing gunner. It is somewhat known that the rear facing gunner is ever so slightly more better at killing people.
Wow, look at this. Even right at the start of the game, such aggression from Scotch. We saw this in an earlier series, running straight down the central channel of this map, decapping the strategic point that cuts fuel left. And that means that allies do not have a fuel income at the moment, whilst Axis do. It is very good early game resource control.
It is indeed, and here comes the penal battalions to try and wrestle back said control, but the MG42 does have an angle on them. Grenadiers going to make it to the garrison. Meanwhile, on the western side of the map, we've got penals pushing out to try and occupy those territories. In the north, the M3 is running ramp shot. This combat engineer, of course, doesn't have the flamer yet, but it does have 4 Mosin Nagant rifles and being a bit of a pest at the moment.
I think that after all... Oh, look at that sapper charge on the MG.
So close to being a wipe.
Nice, nice idea for the early game. But once again, decapped on that strategic point. No resources coming in. You see that Kimbo's all the way up on the top left-hand side of the map trying to capture the munitions point. And this is totally futile. Stern Pioneers are going to clear that up. There is no connected resource on the left side anyway. And with the recapturing of that strategic point, Scotch is going to go and decap the fuel resource. It's a terrible start for allies, I feel.
Here comes the Flamer M3, but should rescue that start. If they're able to find a cheeky squad wipe here or there. Grenadiers.
So this Raketin that's on the field for Stuve, just worth noting, he's got bulletins out for a 3% increased weapon reload. Not going to make the world of difference, but just being able to take that shot, you know what I mean, you can reload the gun a little bit quicker.
This
might help him finish the scout car.
This is, of course, a Nagano Raketenwerfer, one of the best Raketenwerfer users in game history, because he's great at getting up in deep within your territories and taking out your tender vehicles when they least expect it. Foot Grenadiers pushing up to take the central victory point. Penal Battalion's coming to mitigate. M3 is going to duck in and suffer a Raketenwerfer shot. There it is. Main gun destroyed in the first salvo. We're going to see a Faust now to finish the job. Not necessary, as the Raketenwerfer does the dirty.
Yeah, that was perfectly played by Nagano, really. Just the exact situation to set up for that scout car to fall. And we do see there has been a scout car from Scotch. That's now completely uncontested.
Ooh, 2-2-2. Bursts through the wall. And it's going to actually stop that penal battalion from being able to cap the victory point without being seen. So that's not too bad. Meanwhile, there's an engagement on the northern house. No, there isn't. Penal battalions duck out and go for the standard territory point instead.
Heavy machine gun team ready for battle.
Axis actually, even though they have no map control, I still think that they are playing this very solidly. Because what they're doing is it's almost like they're pulling back, drawing the allies into kind of favorable engagements, favorable territory, winning this engagement. And now, you watch how they push back. Look at the spread of the Axis units right now. They've got more than what they need on the field. Everything is near fully healed. And they've got a very mobile army backed up by that scout car. They'll be able to reclaim that double fuel that they had earlier on in the game.
Elsewhere in the south, combat engineers have planted a cheeky demo there, by the way. I don't know if that's fully occluded. It'll be an interesting one. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It'll be a difficult spot because, of course, you'll be bursting around the hedgerow, trying to look for some kind of cheeky shot. It may not happen. Here comes the Svansvig.
I think what he's banking on there is that Scotch will go for the strategic decap point without actually looking, and then on the retreat he might be able to use that demo charge.
Yeah, it's a good point. Here comes.
There's another one as well on that house, just on the left VP.
Oh yes, so there is. It's been seen by the 222, and the house has been destroyed. So he's aware that they've been used. 70 munitions or thereabouts now. Gone one thing. I think there's 65, if I'm not mistaken, munitions these days. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat, please. 2-2 with a great Tokyo drift around the corner there.
Getting both allies with tier 3 now. So looking to see perhaps double T70. A lot of fuel has gone into the hands of Axis actually in the last few minutes of gameplay. Nagano, of course, has selected Special Operations Doctrine. No surprise there, because we know this is just the common pick for him. He uses it so well. He's been using it for years. Really, I still think, even with all the changes to commanders, Special Operations always stands out as just one of the best, most versatile commander choices you can have.
Demo destroyed by these grenadiers, so well spotted by Scotch. Sniper is firing from her shoulder, takes out Stern Pioneer, forces it away, keeping this victory point in Allied hands. Meanwhile, Grenadiers again taking the cutoff, keeping fuel out of Allied hands, and their reserves will drop low as the Axis fuel count skyrockets. 120, 108 versus 62 and 47 respectively, Axis versus Allies. And that's going to mean the medium tanks are going to hit sooner for Axis than for their democratic counterparts. What have you seen?
Well, there's some infiltration grenades from Nagano over the hedgerow to push away the penal battalions, but they did get a satchel charge off on the Raketten, which wipes the squad but leaves the Raketten there ready for capturing. Now you've got guards and penal battalions trying to recap and run with it.
I have no idea where you saw that, but I'm assuming it's somewhere in the centre. Thank you. There's a large amount of craters and such. Two engagements happening in multiple avenues of play there in the south. The 222 went on a rampage, forcing away most of the Allied resistance in the centre. As commentated on by Stormus, there was this infiltration nade over the hedgerow, forcing away the support weapons there. So a good push, all in all, by the Axis.
I'm so shocked to see such little map control for Allies to try to get fuel on the right-hand side. Currently, that penal battalion is very likely to die. The last
Rifle
model
nade.
retreating there to the Volksgrenadiers.
Grenadiers capping up the south. Sniper watching on in horror as the Axis march forward. Meanwhile, in the north, combat engineers in the building. Incendiary grenade pushes them away.
The Peanut Battalion did go down on that side in the end, so it's a loss there for Stuve. It's the last thing that they need right now.
Ooh, combat engineers could be dying. Yes, they do indeed burst in flames.
One of infantry has been killed. Death before retreat.
Oh, this is so unfortunate. I mean, I'm guessing that there's a level of fatigue that is kind of coming into this because some of the retreats just haven't been there. The timing hasn't been great.
Faust
You gotta say,
Pack 40 measuring. Could be another loss. This has been a bit of a sloppy game. It's very late in the day, and it is showing. 222's coming into view, and it does not matter because the T-70's down and out. Guards troops pushing up.
Victory is at risk.
I really, really couldn't have thought of a worse start game for Allies in this matchup.
No, it's not gone
It's very
too well.
unfortunate, but I have to credit like Nagano and Scotch. It's all about that map control, the decapping that they've done. You know, on that one side of the map, that strategic point just outside of the Allied base has been so effective. I think if we could calculate somehow like, how many resources have been nullified by this.
Soviet sniper pushing in, pushing deep, trying to wrestle back that victory point control. Conscripts doing the same, just tiptoeing over the line of that victory point circle there.
Light tank ready for orders.
Oh, sniper being pushed away by the STGs. Full retreat necessitated. Oh, falling into his own satchel there, the penal battalion.
No.
222 finishes the job. There you go. Suicide squad in action.
That's unfortunate. I mean, what was that satchel intended for? Out of interest.
Maybe he dropped it. T-70 pushing into the north. They've seen, of course, that the Stern Pioneers had their own Minesweeper out, which would invoke the psychological metagames of minesweeping. Point I often point out in casting.
And we can see that there is a mine there. It should be pretty obvious where that mine is. And the beauty of the T-70 is you can just take some shots at different areas to test it. Once you find one in the game your opponent is playing.
Nice rifle nade. Doesn't do too much health damage. T-70 there to force the Grenadiers away, but the pressure is evident. Axis are so far up in the Allies' collective faces that it's not giving them enough breathing room, and they're pegged back. Double fuel for the Axis. Nagano and Scotch. It's very late on in the Russian night. They're 3 hours ahead in Moscow alone. So that's 20 past 2 in the morning in France.
Look at these infiltration grenades in the center VP. Beautiful.
Very good indeed. Second time that's happened this game. First Grenadiers quite weren't... Well, one of them wasn't in position to tee off from the other. Nice mine goes off. Sniper didn't fancy it and is forced away after taking a shot. Meanwhile, Grenadiers yet again taking the cutoff.
Yeah, it's just such a mistake letting Axis have plus 39 fuel for so long. Really, this lack of fuel control is just allows the Axis to stack up their advantage. Scotch already went for tier 4 a couple of minutes ago, so we'll be seeing the first of these choices. Nagano bringing in the Panzer IV. I'm guessing for Scotch it's going to be the Brumbear.
T-70 watching over as the penal battalions shoot lead down range. The Axis have a staunch position that's going to be a struggle to overcome. 222 takes a little foray into battle just to survey the situation. and what it saw was PTRS penals and guard squads with the same anti-tank rifles firing from their shoulders, which is highly inaccurate, historically speaking. But anyway, Panzer IV, huge shell. Second one required to keep the T-70 out of battle for the next few minutes at least. Meanwhile, the Raketenwerfer pushes in and takes the cutoff for the Third Reich. Here comes another T-70. It's a cute little thing, making its way onto the battlefield. Combat engineers go for a swim instead of dying, which is probably preferable.
I'm not sure what the T-70s are really going to do here. Unfortunately, they don't really have any other options available.
No.
Could have gone for an Su-76. Maybe that would be helpful because, of course, they're looking for indirect fire to try and deal with the MGs on the left side. And the sniper from Stuve isn't really going over to be helpful in that situation. Could be going down actually to the Panzer IV. Sniper has a bad retreat path here.
Panzer IV takes out the sniper. Nice. Raketenwerfer with a good shot in. And the Panzer IV doing the health damage to the Penal Battalion. Could actually finish it off on retreat here. Turret's going to traverse. Mind you, it was actually attacking a dying body instead of the two men running. A very devious ploy by the dying Russian. Meanwhile, T-70 is going deep into enemy territory. Just been hit by a PaK-40. And the Brumbear is going to turn its casemate and fire a huge AoE shell very shortly. Grenadier bites the dust in the meantime. Guards suffer health damage. Brumbear goes on with its barrage.
That's the only T-70 that they've got. They really need to... Oh, by the way, Nagano's using radio silence. I don't know if you can actually... If you click on Stuve's profile or Kimbo's, you'll see that all the minimap units for Nagano have disappeared. I think this ability is incredible.
It is incredible, and we've just seen two huge takeouts. Seen a PaK-40 at max range, and now the PTRS take out the Panzer IV, so 2 tanks go down. Brumbear watches on, and the guards have to retreat just at the mere threat of one of those huge AoE shells. T-70 in the north gets taken out by the Raketenwerfer. 2 T-70s die in less than 20 seconds there for the Allies. Oof. And they've had to surrender, and that gives Nagano and Scotch their rightful #1 seed. They ascend to the position that is rightfully theirs just in time for the Anniversary Classic. And on the 8th of December 2018, you will see this #1 team try and claim the largest cash prize in Company Heroes history.
Victory is ours.
Boom. Hey! And we're back. There we go. That was a good 11 hours of casting.
Well, congratulations to Goal Path 2. I'm not surprised.